So let's pull back out the Eitz Chaim, the Chumash that's in front of you, because I want us to just quickly look through a couple of verses. It's Genesis 18, beginning verse 16. It's on 102, okay, 102. So the angels come, the strangers come, Abraham is a great host, and Sarah a great host. He feeds them. There's commentary about what they ate as well, or why did they eat at all, because angels don't eat, I guess. And so the commentators say that they ate so they would make us feel more comfortable. I'm like, that's a thoughtful angel, as they're off to go destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and also announce the birth of Sarah, the pregnancy of Sarah. But as Abraham is escorting the angels out, I want us to kind of look through each of these lines here, because I think God is unsure what to do. I think God is waffling back and forth. Should I tell Abraham what I'm going to do? Should I destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? And I think that if we look at each line by itself and not just quickly read through it, I think we're going to get some insights. So we're at the top of page 102, Genesis 18, verse 16. So the agents, the angels, the strangers, the men set out from there, and they looked towards Sodom, and Abraham walked them to see them off, right? So he escorts them out. Verse 17. Now the Lord had said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do?" It's unclear. Now, here in the English, the sentence continues, but in the Hebrew, that's the sentence stop there. You can see verse 17, and then it says verse 18. So the question is held here. Right? God is wondering, what should I do? Should I tell Abraham about what is about to happen? Rather than translating it as since, we can translate it as but. It's just a vav that is there, a simple little letter that can mean many different things here. But I think if we say but in verse 18, it is God flipping and trying to figure this out. But Abraham is to become a great and populous nation, and all the nations of the earth are to bless themselves by him. So therefore, I should tell him what's going to go on. He's going to be a great leader. I should tell him what's going on. And verse 19, for I have singled him out that he may instruct his children and his posterity to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is just and right, in order that the Lord may bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Verse 20, then the Lord said, the outrage of Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin so grave, right, that God is like, I'm furious with them. I am going to do this. And then in verse 21, God flips back. Wait. I'll go down to see whether they have acted altogether according to the outcry that has reached me, right? God's going to go down and to see if the rumors are right, which is an interesting, what, God doesn't know if the rumors are right? What do you mean that rumors have come to me, right? So I'm going to go down to see whether they have acted according to the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will take note. And then in 22, the men went out from there to Sodom while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Right, so God and Abraham seem to be standing together as the angels go off. So the scene has shifted because God seems to be physically present there. And in 23, Abraham came forward and said, will you sweep away the innocent along with the guilty, right? Then we get into the negotiation. What it doesn't say is, what was the conversation between God and Abraham? Because clearly now Abraham is informed of what's going on, though the text doesn't tell us. It's a blank spot there. But so I find it fascinating how God, not in a bad way, but is waffling, is trying to figure out what he's going to tell Abraham, and it is Abraham that takes action in this scene. I love the scene of the angels and God. It is a person who takes action to make the world a better place. It is Abraham that is making the world a better place, not through punishment like God is acting, but through giving the benefit of the doubt. Right? Dan lechasut is the Jewish value. Dan lechafzut is the Jewish value of giving the benefit of the doubt, if you will. And so what is Abraham's position? There must be innocent people in the city. Don't destroy them all, and they go through that debate. That's what Abraham does. He imagined that a city would have to have some righteous people in it. Of course, we know that he was wrong in the end, or at least they didn't have 10 people that were righteous. But the value that propelled him to act against God's destructive nature is the right value to have. Abraham took action pushing God because Abraham believed in people, maybe even more than God believed in people's nature. And for me, this is a story that must be inverted somehow from how we commonly read it. Because, as they say, dog bites man, not a story. Right? Man bites dog, it's news. So God acting because God sees people are bad, not news. Well, after all, we just had Noah and the flood. We know that God reacts this way. But what is news here, though, is that Abraham acts because he believes people are good. He believes in the best of people. Rashi, who I mentioned earlier, the 11th century commentator, emphasizes this further by amplifying Abraham's intentions. The word the Torah uses in verse 23 is Vayigash Avraham, and it's translated as Abraham came forward. But Rashi clarifies what Vayigash can mean. He says that it's used in a much more energetic way. That Rashi says that it is in the sense of coming near to wage war. So Abraham was not politely discussing with God this, that he was going toe-to-toe with God, insisting that there must be good people there. Abraham approaches God with the intensity of battle because Abraham believes in the goodness of people. It is an amazing scene. And I'm inspired by Abraham at this moment. Abraham is a person of action. He takes action and goes on the journey to unknown places in Lech Lecha. He takes action and jumps to greet the three strangers and offers them hospitality. We know he takes actions in the Akedah and binds his son. So not all actions are good actions. But here Abraham takes action because he believes in the goodness of people. And as we read this parsha again this year, I feel like I need Abraham's reminder to take action because we are helping good people. I recently read an article by the Southern Poverty Law Center titled 10 Ways to Fight Hate, a Community Response Guide. I want to highlight just 4 of the steps which we are already engaged in. So the SPLC writes, 1 is to act. Do something in the face of hatred, of apathy, because apathy will be interpreted as acceptance by the perpetrators, the public, and worse, the victims. Community members must take action. If we don't, hate persists. And we know that hate is rising. Hate has come to the center of conversations and to the center of communities. So we must act against hate. Another point that they make is join forces. They say, reach out to allies from churches and schools and clubs and other civic groups, create a diverse coalition, including children, police, and the media, gather ideas from everyone and get everyone involved. The next is to speak up. Hate must be exposed and denounced. Don't let that joke just go unchallenged. And the last one, the 4th one of the 10 that I'll bring is dig deeper. Look inside yourself for bias and stereotypes. Right? We always must see inside of ourselves in order to make ourselves better people. These 4 points are simple, but not easy to do. But let me tell you, Bethel's response is a way of inviting you in more. I want to remind you or update you, invite you into 2 points of action. One is a longer-term effort, and the other is a simple act that you can do today at the end of services. The first is our continued response to the 2 acts of vandalism that happened to us here at Bethel. In August, the synagogue was targeted twice by hateful words of graffiti. At the time, I wrote and distributed a letter that I thought maybe 5 other houses of worship would sign on to. Over 130 houses of worship just here in the county signed on, stating clearly that hate has no place in our community. Synagogues, mosques, churches signed on, Hindus, Sikh, and Baha'i signed on, and we are doing more. Since August, we have met twice to not let a simple letter be enough, because a letter is not enough to stop hate in our community. The energy in the room at these meetings of faith leaders is hopeful and urgent and inspiring. We are ready to stand together with each other and stand together with our schools and business community and government leaders and other houses of worship to push hate back to the margins of the community. Because when a house of worship is targeted, schools and businesses are also vandalized and graffitied. We all have a shared interest in pushing hate back to the margins. Our work, in part, is to lift up the good works already underway in the community and add our collective energies. Some of the projects we have been discussing include pulpit exchanges, where we preach on each other's bimas, as we say. I don't think they call it a bima. Right? Bringing our communities together to learn about each other and simply to get to know each other with intentionality, and many other projects. And if you are not a Bethel person this morning, go back to your faith leader and ask if they're aware of this effort and invite them into this. They can contact me to learn more about what we're doing and see if this is right for them. Inaction, though, inaction at pushing against hate is not an option for me at this time. The second is something everyone in the sanctuary can do today. I'm wearing a blue pin. It's the Blue Square hashtag pin, and you may have seen them around. The Blue Square campaign was started by Robert Kraft, but it was expanded by Mitch and Josh Rails, yes, of our own commanders, as a symbol against hate. It started as a campaign specifically targeting anti-Semitism and has expanded to naming and pushing against broader forms of hate. The foundation to combat anti-Semitism is behind this important effort. The goal is to purposefully and impactfully reach out to non-Jews throughout the country to address hate. Jews only make up 2.4% of America, yet reported hate incidents targeting Jews is astronomically high and has skyrocketed even greater in this past year. So how does FCAS do this? They have been taking out commercials at high impact places. I'm talking about the Super Bowl and other sporting events. They have brought together sports leagues of the NFL and NBA and WNBA, MLB, NHL, MLS, NWSL, far broader across the American spectrum, getting into homes and eyeballs and people who wouldn't normally come to shul, let's just say. The Blue Square commercials have been very important. They have brought the message out into the communities across America. And while the Blue Square campaign is across television, it's also important to make it local. In speaking with Josh Rails about the campaign, his hope is that over time, to make it an anti-hate symbol as widely known as the pride flag is for love and acceptance. And we are at its beginning. I'm wearing the Blue Square pin so that people will ask me about it. It gives me the chance to share that this is a national initiative to push hate back to the margins. Hate against Jews, but hate against all groups, because when people hate, they hate many different groups. If we allow people to spray paint a synagogue, then we are allowing others to tear down a pride flag or tear down a Black Lives Matter flag and threaten students at school and vandalize businesses with hateful spray paint. Unless we stand against all forms of hate, we allow it to fester and potentially escalate. Hate against Jews and hate against others. And we proudly can say, not in our community. Like Abraham, who acted because he believed in good people, I wear the blue square pin because I believe in the goodness of our people, of our community, and hate has no place here. So I made sure that there are these pins available just outside the door. There's 2 baskets filled with them. So take one, or take a few. And when people ask you what this is about, tell them it is standing against hate together. Shabbat Shalom.